This is the denarius. For hundreds of years, the silver coin was the backbone of Rome's economy. It was the standard currency for trade, taxation, and paying soldiers. Around 50 BC, during Caesar's era, one loaf of bread cost around one denarius, but by the end of the 3rd century, the same loaf of bread could cost upwards of 1,000 denarii. So, how did the greatest empire of human history destroy its currency? The denarius was introduced around 211 BC because Rome needed to finance the Second Punic War. It was created to pay soldiers who needed a high value silver coin that was useful outside of Rome, which the traditional bronze currency couldn't do. The name denarius comes from the Latin meaning tenor because it was originally equivalent to 10 bronze asses. As was the base unit coins which was used in most day-to-day trades. Under Emperor Augustus, the denarius contained around 98% pure silver. The value was intrinsic. The metal itself was the wealth. This stable money funded Rome's road, its army, and its lavish capital. But being the hottest superpower is expensive. Rome had two main financial pressures: massive armies constantly needing pay, and constant war draining the treasury faster than taxes could ever refill it. So the emperor faced a dilemma. He couldn't raise taxes higher without risking revolt, and he couldn't print more silver because, well, I guess 3D printers wasn't a thing. Silver was finite. There was only one option left then: debasement. The concept is very simple. The emperor would melt down all the existing silver coins, replace a small portion of that silver with cheaper copper or bronze, and then mint more coins than he had before. But before we continue, let's take a look at how affordable goods were in ancient Rome. Keep in mind, those prices I'm going to show you are around 50 before Christ, one of the most stable periods of the Roman Empire. One loaf of bread, as I mentioned, cost around 1 denarius. One modius of wheat cost around 5 denarii. Cheap wine, about 1 denarii per liter. Beef cost around 3 denarii per pound. Fish between 1 and 10, depending on the quality of the fish. Olive oil between 1 and 3 denarii per liter. Cabbage, onion, and other vegetables between half and 3 denarii. Fruits varied between 1 and 5, depending on season. And salt, very important, 1 denarius per modius. Now, you might ask, Ledger, how much did workers actually make? Well, you might be shocked. Some Romans surprisingly made a lot of money. Skilled laborers, such as carpenters, masons, or a smith, usually earned about 3 denarii a day. Baker between 2 and 4, heavily depending whether you owned a business or not. Leather worker could earn up to 4 denarii a day. Farm workers usually 1 denarius a day plus food. Teachers got paid 12 denarii per pupil per month, so they would usually have 10 and 20 pupils per month, so that's 120 or 240 denarii per month. Lawyers couldn't charge fees, but they received gifts ranging from 25 to 250 per case. Famous doctors could earn well over 100 denarii per month, and some elite physicians could even earn like modern specialists. A legionary soldier earned 225 denarii per year, so roughly 0.6 denarii a day. Now, I know what you're thinking. Soldiers made less than a regular worker? Yeah, well, in theory, yes, but you gotta remember that amongst many other bonuses they would occasionally receive, they also shared spoils from battles. So, a lucky regular legionary, provided he survived throughout an entire life of campaign, he could, in theory, retire wealthy. And that has actually happened to various soldiers. Perhaps the most famous of all is Lucius Sicinius Dentatus, who rose through the ranks without being a noble, which is remarkable, and became famous for the sheer amount of spoils, rewards, and gifts he collected from combat. According to the tradition, he accumulated well over 200,000 asses from spoil over his years of service. Centurions got a massive pay jump between 9 and 36 denarii a day. That was due to a massive improve in responsibility and duties and things they would actually do that a regular legionary wouldn't. Gladiator, not a slave, could earn upwards of 12,000 denarii per fight. Unless public scribe usually made 12 denarii a day, the tax collectors didn't get a wage but profit based depending on how much tax they would collect. Many became millionaires with it. And a senator and magistrate got no paid as they were expected to fund public work from personal wealth. Something America should try in the modern days. So, realistically speaking, how much would it actually cost to eat decently? A working Roman might spend per day, like, say, a bread and grain, 1-2 denarii, oils and veggies, 1 or 2, and some occasional meat or wine, between 1 and 3. So, all in all, between 3 and 7 denarii a day to eat decently. So, the average Roman could actually afford to eat decent, something you can do at Walmart 2,000 years later. Nah, I'm just kidding. We got food stamps. We good. Suck on that, Romans. Now, back to our main topic. Here, our first entry on the collapse comes from Emperor Nero in 64. Under the guise of funding the rebuilding of Rome after the Great Fire, which totally wasn't Nero the one who did it, he reduced the denarius period to about 90%. It was a small, almost undetectable cheat, but the seal was broken. For the next 150 years, every crisis led to more debasement. Trajan and Marcus Aurelius needed money for wars, pushing the period down to 85 and then 75. But it was Septimus Severus who drove the currency off a cliff. Severus, needing to secure the loyalty of his massive legions, famously told his sons, "Enrich the soldiers and scorn all other men." And he enriched them by systematically gutting the currency. By the time he died, the denarius was barely 50% silver. Now, let's talk about the true cheat, the Antoninianus. In 2015 AD, Emperor Caracalla introduced this coin, claiming it was worth 2 denarii. But here's the kicker. It only contained the silver equivalent of about 1.5 denarii. It was an instant, government-mandated 25% financial fraud. This new coin rapidly failed, and then came the crisis of the 3rd century, a 50-year period of non-stop civil wars and invasions. To pay off the legions fighting for their lives, the barracks emperors debased the currency with insane speed. And now, to our final catastrophic entry. By the late 260s, the Antoninianus, the coin was simply a bronze core dipped in a thin layer of silver wash. The consequences of this monetary malpractice was catastrophic. Hyperinflation. People understood the cheat. Merchants realized they were exchanging real goods, grain, olive oils, tools, for worthless metal. They refused to accept the debased currency and began demanding payments in physical goods or demanding gold, specifically the gold aureus, which, though also debased, was far more stable. The price of basic goods like grain skyrocketed, ruining the working class. By the 4th century, an amount of gold that would have traded for 25 denarii in the days of Caesar now required thousands of near worthless slugs. Trust in the empire's currency was zero. When Emperor Diocletian tried to fix it with the Edict on Maximum Prices, attempting to cap the cost of over 1,000 different goods, it was already too late. Black markets flourished and the economy retreated back to bartering. The empire had traded its sound money for short-term political expediency. Funny how price control has failed miserably for over 2,000 years, and yet some governments tried and still try to this day, huh? The Roman example is perhaps the most famous lesson in financial history. When a government attempts to solve its spending problems by secretly devaluing its currency, it does not solve a budget crisis. it creates an inflation crisis that punishes every ordinary citizen. We track this story because the fundamentals of wealth and value never change. Sound money requires sound governance. When the financial ledger becomes a ledger of lies, collapse is sure to follow. If you enjoy tracking the true cost of Roman corruption, hit that subscribe button down to keep up with the loot ledger. How about the surprising wealth of the medieval knights? How much did all their armor and land really cost? Let me know what historical economy you want broke down in the comments below. Don't forget, leave a like and subscribe.